Tobias Harris had a very interesting and weird career arc so far. If you've seen my other videos, I've talked about Tobias here and there, mainly pertaining to all the times he got traded. When he was younger, so many teams gave up on him, but right now he looks like a legitimate star. The best player on the Los Angeles Clippers, and right now they've been exceeding expectations despite having a roster full of rejects and full of players that other teams gave up on. They've been playing exceptional basketball and everyone on the team gels together very well. After 7 seasons in the NBA, Harris has shown flashes of stardom, but now he's finally making the jump that everyone has been waiting for. How's it going, ladies and gents? My name's Andy, and today we're gonna talk about Tobias Harris. Why did so many teams give up on him, and how was he able to transform himself into an all-star caliber player? To start things off, Tobias Harris was drafted in the 2011 NBA draft at just 19 years old. He was selected by the Charlotte Bobcats, but the Bobcats management and Jordan had no interest in keeping him. They selected him with the goal of trading him right away, and that's exactly what they did. On draft night, Harris was traded to the Milwaukee Bucks. At the time, the Bucks were in an awkward position. They made a trade halfway through the season, sending their center Andrew Bogut to the Warriors for Monte Ellis. This was a move that briefly excited the Bucks fanbase because Ellis was an exciting player to watch. However, the team was not great, but they were still trying to make moves to reach the playoffs. Because of this, Harris would barely get any playing time at all. In his rookie season, he appeared in 42 games, averaging about 11 minutes a game, mostly garbage time, and 5 points a game. However, Harris never complained and never tried to confront his coaches for more playing time, because he knew that he was young and still needed time to learn. Over the years, there's been some talk about him and Scott Skiles not getting along because Skiles was his coach on 2 different teams, which ended up trading away Harris. But the truth is, Harris has said that he always had a great relationship with Skiles, saying that, as you guys know, I was a young player and didn't get the playing time everyone expected. But that comes with the territory. It comes with being a young player in the NBA. But I've always said he's a coach who taught me a great NBA system, defensively, offensively. He really helped my career just by learning, developing a good base and a good foundation. Anyway, the Bucks basically had no room for him. Their roster was filled with small forwards and wing players, and because they were so desperate to compete, the 19-year-old Harris was rotting on the bench. By the middle of the 2012-13 season, Harris would get traded to the Orlando Magic. Unlike the Bucks, they saw something in him and made it very clear that he was going to be a huge part of their team moving forward. At the time of the trade, Orlando's GM, Rob Hennigan, was very high on Harris and hoped that he could become a core part of their team. Right away, he started to get a lot more playing time, and right away he started to immediately contribute. He averaged over 36 minutes a game for the rest of the season, while also leading the team in scoring with 17.3 points per game, as it looked like Harris was starting to make the jump. Over the next 3 years, he would average about 15 to 16 points a game. Unfortunately, while he did show an amazing ability to score, the rest of his game was severely lacking. Harris was a tweener, a combo forward, but back in 2013, the NBA has not yet evolved to that point. Positionless basketball was not a common thought process back then, so even though Tobias could play multiple positions, he was not good enough to play a single position successfully because he didn't have a true position. As a power forward, he struggled to guard other power forwards and also committed a lot of fouls. And as a small forward, he got blown by a lot of faster wing players. Tobias was also a bit out of shape back then. He was not very fast back then. In fact, he was pretty sluggish. His first step was not as fast as we see it today. Although he scored on decent efficiency, his shot selection was pretty bad. Over 40% of his shots came from mid-range distance, but he did not shoot the mid-range shot as well as he does now. His three-point shot was also very inconsistent. One of his most famous comparisons back then was Carmelo Anthony. Everyone would say that Tobias was a poor man's Melo, which looking back at it now in hindsight, it's pretty funny, because in recent years he's been way better than Melo. They basically changed roles. But their games were indeed very similar, even down to the bad defense, their unwillingness to pass, and even their jump shots looked similar. Before the start of the 2015-16 season, Harris signed a 4-year $64 million contract to stay with the team. It was a hefty contract at the time, and most thought that it was a huge overpay considering that his game stagnated, and it wasn't looking like he was going to become a legit star. Anyway, after 3 years in Orlando, the team wasn't getting anywhere, and by the middle of the 2015-16 season, they realized this too. Harris's role on the team started to diminish, his defense and three-point shot were still the same as when he got there, so he wasn't improving like they thought he would. They also believe that Aaron Gordon, another young up-and-coming combo forward, can replace Harris in the near future. As a result, the Magic dealt him away to Detroit, in exchange for basically nothing. They got back Ersan Ilyasova and Brandon Jennings, but they would both be gone after the season was over. With the Pistons, this is where Harris's game really started to blossom. With Andre Drummond in the middle, Harris had a lot more space to work with. His shooting efficiency increased across the board, especially his mid-range shots. In the 2016-17 season, he shot 44% from 10 to 16 feet, and 49% from 16 feet to the three-point line. Statistically, he was a top 3 mid-range shooter in the league. Additionally, Coach Van Gundy put him in better positions to score and focusing on what he does best, which is catch and shoot. That season, Harris was assisted on 99% of all his three-pointers. That was a major reason why he started to hit his jumpers more often. He drastically reduced the number of times he would do fancy dribbles and then take a contested pull-up jumper. According to Harris, he said he really loved playing in Detroit and wanted to stay there for a long time. He said, "It's a blessing to be here. I hope it's a place I can stay. You never know with the NBA business, but at the same time, I like it here. I believe winning will solve a lot of things. That's why I'm looking forward to a great year and building with this team. I've been the same professional since the day I walked into the NBA. I've been somebody who comes to work, wants to do whatever he can to help his team. Have I gotten smarter with the way I've worked? Yeah. But professionalism, things like that, I've been the same. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that I cherish every single day." Coach Van Gundy said the same thing. Tobias is a very mature individual, always has been. He seems like a 30-year-old, 10 or 12-year veteran in terms of his maturity and professionalism. However, Tobias ran into another issue this time. He played really well, the coaches, the organization loved him, but not to the point where he was ready to take over the team. When it comes down to it, he was still a role player. Because of his great play, his value skyrocketed, so when the Pistons saw a chance to get Blake Griffin, they instantly threw Tobias into the deal, sending him to the LA Clippers. Now, Tobias is having by far the best season of his entire career. He's shooting about 40% from 3, scoring a career high in points, and defensively, he's no longer a traffic cone. His mid-range game is better than ever, shooting career highs from those spots. Although the Clippers are a complete team from top to bottom, Harris has been leading the way, and I think it's about time for him to make his first ever All-Star game. And that's all, folks. That sums up the story of Tobias Harris. A player who showed flashes of stardom throughout his career, yet still got him traded 4 times in his first 7 seasons. He falls into that category of players who are good enough to be thrown into a trade because of potential, but not good enough for teams to keep him because they could get someone else better. And it might happen again when his contract expires in the 2019 offseason. The Clippers might not want to keep him and go for somebody else. Like maybe Kawhi Leonard, but it seems like he's enjoying Toronto. Also, every single player on this Clippers team is expendable. If the organization feels like they have a legit chance to get a superstar, then they're gonna trade whoever they want. Nobody is untouchable. It's a weird situation to be in, but when you think about it, this applies to basically the rest of the Clippers roster. It's a team full of misfits, full of rejects who were given another chance, and Harris has made the most of it. As of right now, Harris is also only 26 years old, so there's still room for improvement. In July of 2018, he rejected a 4-year, $80 million contract extension, which makes sense because he could get way more in the summer of 2019. It's possible he could receive his absolute maximum of 5 years, $188 million from the Clippers. But I don't think he's worth that much. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone after this season. Still, it's gonna depend on how the rest of the season plays out. I mean, if they let Harris walk, that defeats the purpose of the Blake Griffin trade. I guess they did free up a lot of cap space. But if they do keep Harris, they're gonna be paying $36 million a year for a fringe all-star. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on Tobias Harris. What do you think of him as a player, and should the Clippers actually keep him after the season? Or do you think he's gonna end up on a different team once again? Let me know in the comments. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.